in the morning with Dr. Boyce Watkins. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and today I want to talk about Coach Prime. It turns out that Coach Prime and the Colorado Buffaloes they got robbed, and the robbery was just kind of a shocker to me. And what was really shocking wasn't just that it happened, but also there are some reasons why you sometimes make yourself into a target. And I'm going to talk about that, about the flashiness. We're also going to talk about whether or not Coach Prime and his staff had the same smoke for UCLA, where the robbery took place, that they had for Jackson State, where no robbery took place at all, just a false accusation. So my name's anyway, get comfortable, buckle up a seat. We're gonna get started on drboycetv.com right now.
Here we are, clan the isms, cataclysm, great. Our people out here struggling, trying to make it in this state. Everybody out here doing it, but we the ones too late. Now family, we the ones who gotta delegate. Get that money in the power, never be fake. Stick to co-sign for 3. What did he say? Create jobs, support our own. Educate the same and buy back your home. Got 3 degrees, triple 10. 3 PhDs, now we on the CNN. DBTV, let's talk about negligence. Ignorance is bliss, but we can turn it to intelligence. Believe none of what you hear, half of what you see. Let's break it down here on Dr. Boyce TV. Here we are.
So good to see everybody. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. Please hit the thumbs up button as you come in, and also let me know if you can hear me all right. I am going live early today because I wanted to talk about some things that I just read and some a story that I heard from my friend Jeff Lightsy Jr. over at the Black Balls channel about Coach Prime. It turns out that Coach Prime that his Colorado Buffaloes endured another unfortunate robbery, and there's a little bit of a talk about this because the robbery happened at UCLA this time. And his team being robbed. First of all, I didn't know that football teams are being robbed like that. I didn't know that being a college football player came with, somebody jacking you in your locker room. But in addition to that, there's a conversation about the politics of it all. Just, whether or not Coach Prime had the same smoke for UCLA that he had for Jackson State. If you recall, back in the day, there was a time where Jackson State was falsely accused of allowing his locker room to be robbed. It became a big thing. It became one of those, how these Negroes are, how these black schools do. And what I really found really sad about it was that when it was revealed that it wasn't true, nobody really went out of their way to sort of clear up their name. Like nobody really works as hard to clear your name up as they do to smear your name. Give me a yes if you understand what I'm saying. Like people will work harder to bring you down than they will to build you back up. And so I want to have this conversation as fairly as I can, but as honestly as I can. And I want to also welcome everybody as you come in. Let me know if y'all can hear me. I hit the wrong button earlier, and when I hit the wrong button, weird things happen. So let me know if you can hear me. Give me a quick yes in the chat if you can hear me okay. And also, don't forget this podcast is on Spotify. If you look up my name on Spotify, you can find the Dr. Boyce Breakdown. I also have another podcast on Spotify called How to Make Money Without Working. So if you're strictly about the business, about finance, my PhD's in finance, I'd love to tell you what I know because I want you to be ahead economically. So look up How to Make Money Without Working on Spotify. All right, so as I get started here, El Hodge and Lee and Johnny Call, let me tell you what was presented to me. So Jeff Lightsy Jr. At the Black Balls channel was one of the first people that brought the topic to my attention. I saw his podcast on the Black Balls channel. Jeff Lightsy Jr., one of the best sports analysts out here, better than any of the guys on ESPN or Fox Sports. And I've worked with some of the best. There's a guy named Nick Wright who's on Fox Sports who used to work for me back in the day. And Jeff is better than Nick. I think one day Jeff's going to be one of the biggest names out here. And he was talking about Coach Prime. And Jeff followed Coach Prime back when Coach Prime was back at Jackson State. And if you recall, give me a yes if you remember when there was the incident where Coach Prime was robbed in the locker room, where he came out and did the press conference and said they stole our stuff. And then he didn't just mention what happened. He kind of goes into this tirade about how we have to do better. The institution has to do better. And some people felt that he was throwing Jackson State under the bus. And a lot of people, because there are so many black people who truly hate black people, there are so many black people who truly believe the absolute worst about black people at all possible times, they went into this sort of additional tirade to say, see, this is why you can't work in no HBCU. This is how those black people do. This is why he needs to get out of Jackson State. And in fact, when Deion took that new job to go to Lily White, Colorado, where they don't hire black professors, by the way, they only want black people on that campus if you're playing the sport. If you go look at their enrollment numbers and their hiring numbers, they don't tend to hire and promote black professors, but they will pay a Negro to play football any day of the week. They will pay a black person to make them money. They won't necessarily bring black people in for other reasons. And I think this is something that you got to think about. Well, anyway, when the original thing happened, I didn't even know that it was fake until recently. I didn't get the news, the memo that there wasn't actually a robbery at Jackson State. What actually happened at Jackson State, in case you don't know, is that somebody actually moved his stuff. Some conscientious black person, pay attention now, some black person doing the right thing, grabbed their stuff and moved it. And again, the media didn't cover this. Did y'all see this? I did not see this. I did not see anything in the media where they were like, "Oh, sorry, we falsely accused a black institution of being sloppy and irresponsible. Our bad. It wasn't right." They didn't do that, right? So check this out. So recently, Coach Prime goes out to UCLA, another school that doesn't hire black professors. UCLA actually has been accused of racism on multiple occasions by its black students. Go look it up. Their black male students had a protest because they said that if you're not dribbling a basketball or throwing a football, your existence on this campus is almost like it doesn't exist. Your existence does not exist, right? You will not be present on this campus if you are not dribbling a basketball, throwing a football, by the way. And so these institutions, that's what they do. I'm a college professor. I can tell you the racism is very deep. I just wish other people paid attention to racism, but unfortunately we just are used to second class treatment, and we're okay with the idea that they only let black men through the door if you're playing the sport. But anyway, at UCLA, he goes out to UCLA. I guess they're ghetto as hell, because at UCLA he gets robbed at UCLA. Now, apparently, from what I understand, the robbery was not just a Coach Prime and his team, but the UCLA players also lost their stuff. And then also Coach Prime and the team also lost their pride because UCLA, if I'm not mistaken, UCLA tackled that ass. UCLA is one of the many teams, unfortunately, this year that has really sort of exposed that the reality that Colorado, that it was kind of unreasonable to expect Colorado to go from being 1-11 in one year to being like, championship contenders the next year. That's unreasonable to begin with, but there was a lot of false hype that started at the beginning of the year when they beat TCU, even though TCU was a bad team masquerading as a good team. If you look at TCU since that time, TCU has been sort of falling down. That they beat Colorado State, and everybody thought that they were this great football team, but they're not great. If you follow football, you'll know that their offensive line is so bad. I could get a pack of grandmas together. I could get my grandma, my old uncle with a bad leg, and 3 7-year-olds, and they could protect Shedeur Sanders, the quarterback, better than the Colorado offensive line. That offensive line is, well, you might call that Swiss cheese. You might call that just the Matador offensive line. The defensive linemen come running and they just move out of the way. And it's not going to get any better because, unfortunately, Coach Prime, I think, is making another mistake by publicly criticizing the offensive line. And that is bad for morale. I think that if he doesn't incentivize these guys to do their job, his son is in danger. They're really going to back off, in my opinion. I don't know how y'all feel, but I know I wouldn't enjoy doing my best on the job and then having somebody say, well, we're going to replace you next year anyway because we think you're a scrub. That's just not the right approach, but whatever. It is what it is. You can agree or disagree, but here's the thing. So Coach Prime goes out to UCLA. His stuff gets stolen. He mentions that his stuff is stolen, but if you listen to his language, go listen to his language. It's very, very polite, very demure, very clear and specific in terms of, how this has to be rectified. And this was an unfortunate incident. There wasn't that sort of finger wagging That you give me a yes if you know what I'm talking about. That Barack Obama style finger wagging. Anybody remember how Barack Obama will be real nice to white people, real nice to Asian people, real nice to LGBT, real nice to Jewish people. But then when he got to black people, it was like, it's your fault. You need to do better. You need to stop. Now, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. We know you've heard on this channel that there's issues in the black community. You've heard that. I talk about it all the time. I bring it up all the time. And I'll critique the black community in a second to the point where people get mad. They say you don't like black people. No. I just don't co-sign on BS. I don't agree with nonsense. And when you're promoting nonsense in your music and nonsense in your culture, I'm saying that you need to do better, right? But here's the thing. Here's the difference. In order to be critical of the black community, you have to have a license to do that. You have to have a license to do that. And where does that license come from? Part of that license comes from the fact that the bigger question. Are you as quick to critique white racism as you are to critique black misbehavior? Louis Farrakhan is very critical of the black community. He wants you to do better. He loves you. But Louis Farrakhan will stand up to the white man and he'll stand up to the black man. He doesn't criticize black people. Give me a yes if you're following what I'm saying. I need y'all to understand the difference here. Let me know if you understand the difference. There's a difference between somebody who only criticizes black people and they're really polite, yazam when white folks come around, but then versus a black person who will criticize the black community, but also turn around and say, what you're doing to black people ain't right. The way you're treating black people is not fair. Right. So one of the differences is that, and I want you to understand this, it's like the difference between your mama criticizing you and your enemy criticizing you. Your mama criticizes you because she loves you. Your enemy criticizes you because they hate you. Your mama criticizes you because she's trying to build you better. Your enemy's criticizing you because they're trying to tear you down. Your daddy criticizes you because he's giving you tough love. Your enemy criticizes you because they hate your guts and want to see you die. Right. So you got to understand the difference between the two. And I want to make that clear. You must have constructive critique in order for us to grow. If we do not have that, we cannot get better. So here's the thing. So I have nothing wrong with Deion. I see nothing wrong with Deion as a person. I like what Deion says in terms of raising these guys to be, I think he said, I want them to be husbands and fathers and leaders, not just baby daddies. I love that. I think that's amazing. I think that's great. He's good for those guys. But then again, at the same time, I'm really concerned about this idea that when you speak about Jackson State and your stuff allegedly being stolen in Jackson State, it becomes a tirade about everything that's wrong with the institution, everything that's wrong with our people, everything that's wrong with the city of Jackson. This is unacceptable. So then when you go off to Colorado, when you go off to, where everything's lily white, including the people in the snow, right? You go into the place that's lily white, people in snow. You're the blackest thing in the city, and they trying to steal your swag. They're like, okay, dance like the Negroes dance. Do that black people dance that y'all do. Ooh, we get, they literally import their coolness. They imported their cool factor, right? So you come into Colorado, and where there's no class, no swag. They ain't winning. They have nothing. All the magic, the Deion Sanders magic, they have none of that. They literally buy all that. They're like, well, we can buy us a boy that can bring that to us. Come on in and do the buck dance, boy. We like to, when you do the buck dance, we'll give you another $1, right? And so you come in and you're doing this with all these people that really don't have a connection to the culture the way the folks in Jackson State did. Like the folks in Jackson State really loved you, and they would have loved you even if you were losing. I don't know. I'm really curious to see how the people of Colorado are going to feel when you're not as good as they thought you were going to be. I really wonder about that. Like, I wonder if the treatment or the acceptance and the love of the primetime culture evolves when you're 3-0 versus when you're 4-4. And let me tell you, next week, I'm not sure what the schedule is. Let me look up their schedule. Hit the thumbs up button. Please hit the thumbs up button, by the way. Thumbs up, share, subscribe. You're watching drboycetv.com, the home for intelligent black people. All right, so let me see. What is I think their next game is Oregon State. Oregon State. Is Oregon State any good? Oh, shoot. Oh, man. Oh, Lord Jesus. Yeah, Oregon State's number 16 in the country. They're probably going to come tackle that ass, too. Let's just be honest. I mean, then they got Utah. Utah ain't playing. Now, Arizona and Washington State, I don't know much about those two teams. I'm going to try to look it up. But they got a tough schedule in front of them. And just being honest, it's a very tough conference. It's not easy. I can tell you this. Arizona beat Washington State 44-6. So it looks like Arizona might also be a pretty tough team as well. They almost beat USC. Okay, yeah, Arizona's not playing. Arizona's going to show up too. So they're going to have a tough time. And I'm wondering, if their love and affinity for the Coach Prime style is going to be the same when he's a losing coach as it was when he was a winning coach. And also, I really would love to understand why your response to being robbed at UCLA was different from your response to being robbed at Jackson State. There is no sort of there is no sort of explanation that makes sense to me, in the sense that a lot of people justify it. And I know there's people that just want to just cuddle with Coach Prime's balls. He's got a lot of fans, a lot of stands. They literally worship the man. They believe anything he says. Nothing he says can ever be wrong. And I get that. And if you're in that category, then please just go somewhere and you can go cuddle up with his poster or something like that, because this is not a place for people like this. This is a place for people that can give love but still critique. Like, I love Coach Prime, I really do. I have one jersey on my wall, one, and that is a signed autographed jersey from Deion Sanders from the Dallas Cowboys, because I've been a Cowboys fan my whole life, and Coach Prime's my favorite Cowboy of all time. So don't think that I dislike the man. He's my favorite player of all time. But I'm also man enough to call you out and let you know when I think that what you're doing is not making sense. I'm also a guy who, if I was in Coach Prime's life, I would not just be a stand, I would be an advisor. When I talked to Kanye West, it was the same way. When Kanye and I were on the phone, I said, you got all these fans that will kiss your ass. I'm not one of those guys. I'm a grown-ass man from Chicago, just like you, and some of the stuff you're doing ain't making no sense to me. Kanye didn't like that so much. That conversation didn't go as well as you might have hoped that it will, because, it's hard to deal with an egomaniac, right? And so the point of the matter is to say that, that generally speaking, when I see what happened at UCLA and I see that his players got robbed, I'm really curious to know, the same people who said that it made sense for him to leave Jackson because he got robbed at Jackson, would you say the same thing about him getting robbed while he's coaching at Colorado? Would you say this? I mean, seriously, would it be the same reaction? Like, would you say, yeah, you can't coach at them white schools because they racist and they'll rob you? At least if you get robbed by a black person, at least you're adding to the black wealth in the black community. You get robbed by a white boy at UCLA, then, and who knows? I don't know if the robbers were black or white, but I know that the UCLA has an endowment that exceeds the endowment of all the top 10 HBCUs combined. UCLA's endowment, let me look this up. HBCUs, they can't afford the best security. They can't. They don't have the most money, right? But UCLA's endowment, let me tell you what UCLA's endowment is. UCLA's endowment is $6.7 billion. $6.7 billion. Now, let me just put that into context for you so you'll understand how much money these white folks have. And you know me, I'm a finance professor, so I know all about the money. I can go count the dollar bills. Howard University is one of the biggest institutions in the black community, and their endowment, I think their endowment is the largest of all the HBCUs, and their endowment is just $712 million. So their endowment is about 1/8 of UCLA, and that's our biggest and best. UCLA is not even, I don't even think UCLA is in the top 10 or top 20 as far as white schools. And let me see if I can find a list of the endowments so we can really see what the numbers look like across the board for HBCUs. HBCUs don't have as much money, and that's one of the reasons why they can't do the same things that white schools do. So those of y'all that are sitting around saying, well, if Jackson State really wanted him, they would have paid them the same amount of money as Colorado. That shows a lack of understanding of black wealth. You don't understand how much money these folks have been stealing from you and how they've been stealing it from you. You don't understand how much wealth they took away from you, and the fact that you don't have the resources to compete with them directly. So you can't do a dollar for dollar comparison between those two institutions. You can't. It's like Coach Prime trying to compare his offensive line to the offensive line of the Kansas City Chiefs. Right, the Kansas City Chiefs have millions of dollars and better players that they can recruit because they've got these resources. Colorado can't compete with Kansas City, right? So when you're asking an HBCU, understand, pay attention to what I'm saying here. When you're asking an HBCU to come up with the money to match a Colorado that has been stealing wealth from black people for a very long time, it's almost impossible to do. Right. And so I really just encourage you to consider that. So let me just kind of put it in context. UCLA's endowment is $6.7 billion. Howard University, our most wealthy HBCU, their endowment is only 712 million. If Howard University were a white university, I bet you they wouldn't be in the top 50. I bet you they wouldn't even be in the top 100. Let me see. I'm really curious now. Top 100 university endowments list. Let me see if I can find a list here. 712 million. That's how much money Howard University. That's the richest school. I'm talking about Jackson. Jackson ain't even in that top 10. So Jackson is way down there. But let me see. Let me see if I can find some sort of list, because I really want you to understand just how screwed up and imbalanced things are, and just how so much of your wealth has been taken away from you. Your institutions don't have the support that they deserve. And a lot of the reason they don't have any wealth is largely because whenever we get something good, they just come along and they buy it. And the reason they can come along and buy it is because we are pretty much always for sale. Now, if you want to understand, let's just compare really quickly. Okay, do me a favor, by the way. Please hit the thumbs up button. Thumbs up, share, subscribe. You're watching drboycetv.com, the home for intelligent Black people. And you guys know I talk about economics, and this is an economic conversation, by the way, if you haven't noticed yet. It's not me gossiping about Coach Prime and his life. But remember, the economics intertwines with the culture. So I always talk about the culture, because you can't talk about the economics without talking about the culture. Remember, when Colorado signed Coach Prime, that was a multi-billion-dollar displacement of Black wealth. That those billions of dollars, Coach Prime has made the University of Colorado somewhere around 400 to 500 million dollars already. Do y'all understand that? Give me a yes if you understand the magnitude of those numbers. He has made for Colorado, for an institution that does not hire Black professors. My wife and I are college professors. We're not just talking out the side of our neck. If you look at their hiring record and their promotion record for Black people, you could not get a job at Colorado if you do not play a sport. None of y'all niggas, not one person in this chat could get a job on the faculty at the University of Colorado. I don't care how many degrees you got, how many masters you got, how many doctorates you got. They don't hire Black people very often. But Black people, just like Powernomics talks about, and Black labor, white wealth, shout out to Dr. Claude Anderson, discusses the usage of Black people to accumulate wealth for the broader white community is in full effect. That's pretty much what you see. But Colorado's no different from a lot of the institutions. Like, go there. I dare you right now. Go apply for a job at the University of Colorado, and I want you to say, "Look, hey, I'm a big Coach Prime fan. I would love to tickle his balls because I just think that everything he does is wonderful, and I could dance like him too. I could dance like him too. I could wear the sunglasses and do the dances and everything, and I could entertain you too, and see if they'll hire you for a job outside of anywhere involving sports. Just go try. I want you to go try." And they're gonna say, no, we're not. We thank you for the offer, but we're not interested. And so anyway, let me get back to this endowment list. I want you to understand just how rich these institutions are. And so Coach Prime, yeah, he goes to UCLA. They steal his stuff. UCLA, it's kind of crazy, right? At Jackson, you might kind of it's not a huge surprise just because Jackson's a very poor city. Jackson doesn't even have clean water. Think about this. That's how poor the city. They don't even have clean water in Jackson, right? So they can't afford the best security. They can't. But in Jackson, there was no theft. Just understand, at Jackson, there was no theft. Nobody stole anything. Somebody just moved his stuff because they wanted to keep it safe. That's what happened. He was a victim of somebody caring about him and protecting his stuff. Okay. So he goes to UCLA, he gets robbed. UCLA has plenty of money. And just to show you how wealthy some of these big white universities are, remember, I told you the wealthiest Black university on earth is Howard University. Their endowment is $712 million, not even $1 billion. The wealthiest white university in America, white university system, is the University of Texas system. Their endowment is $69 billion with a B, $69 billion. Now, I want you to take a moment. I want you to process the differential in that number. That's literally, I want to say it's about 100 times greater than the endowment at Howard University. In fact, the University of Texas system alone by itself, with no help from any other white institution, has an endowment that is about 65 times greater than the endowment of all of your richest HBCUs in America. Are you hearing this? Is this number sinking in? Are y'all understanding this? And to give you a comparison point, I want you, and then so when people come to me, they're like, well, why didn't Jackson State pay Coach Prime $5 million? They could have paid him just like Colorado, man. You gotta go get the money, man. I hear you, I hear you, I hear you. But that's like me going to you and you got a job. Pay attention now. That's like you got a job making 50 grand. 50 grand, and you pay the guy to cut your grass, and you pay him something fair. Let's say you pay him $100 to cut your grass, and that's good money for you. That's a lot of money. So imagine if somebody came along and they offered the person who cut your grass, they offered him $10,000. They offered him $10,000. And then the lawn guy's like, hey, look, I can't help you no more, man. I'm sorry. I got to go with the money. And you're like, yeah, but I can't, like, like, there's nothing we can do. And they say, well, hey, if you really wanted to keep me, you would pay me $10,000 to cut the grass too. And you're like, bro, I can't pay you $10,000. I don't have that kind of money. That's what it feels like. Or trying to date. I know a lot of guys complain now about what women expect. Like they don't want to go eat at Olive Garden and what else? Cheesecake Factory on the first date, which I think is kind of weird. By the way, my wife, I could take her to any restaurant on earth, but if I took her to Cheesecake Factory, she would be very happy. We would be very full, and she'd be giving me lots of kisses at the end of the night. So you got to get that silly nonsense, that materialistic bullshit out of your head. It's stupid. But anyway, but seriously though, like think about this. Like imagine if you are a regular guy and you are a truck driver, you make 50 grand a year, and you're competing with a man who literally, pay attention now, he's literally making $5 million a year. How do you compete financially? And let's say you're dealing with a woman who says, hey, look, I know I told you I loved you, and I did. You were a truck driver, and I was with you the whole time. But he's offering me, like, he makes $5 million. Can you make $5 million? If you can't make $5 million like him, then you a simp. If you can't match if you can't match his offer, then I'm sorry. The love only goes so far because you ain't really stepping up to the plate. Think about how ridiculous that would sound. How crazy. Think about how many men on the internet would be bitching right now if there was a woman who said, I need my man to make $5 million a year. That's exactly what we do to Jackson State when we look at Jackson State and say, well, why didn't y'all pay him what Colorado paid him? Because Colorado literally has more than 100 times more money than Jackson State. They've got money to fucking burn. They spend more money in a week, I bet you, than Jackson State spends in a whole year. It is not fair. And the point of the matter is that as Black people, if all you can think about is the money, then you're no different from some raggedy gold digger who says, I can love my man. I told him that I loved him, but there's another man that makes $5 million, so I got to go with him. I mean, it ain't my fault. It's not my, it's his fault because he didn't deliver. That's not fair. That would not be fair to you. So anyway, let me keep going here. Do me a favor, thumbs up, share, subscribe. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins. You're watching drboycetv.com, the home for intelligent Black people. I have a podcast on Spotify. If you look up my name, Boyce Watkins, on Spotify, you can find it there. There's also I have two podcasts on Spotify, actually. One's called How to Make Money Without Working. So feel free to go search for How to Make Money Without Working on Spotify. And also, if you'd like for me to send you a list of AI stocks that I like, I want to help you invest. I want to see your wealth grow. My PhD's in finance. I love thinking about economics in all different forms and shapes and sizes. So if you'd like for me to text you stuff for free from the Black Business School, just text the word stock to 31996. Text stock to 31996. And I have other books, The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power, Financial Lovemaking, things like that. It's also on Audible, by the way. The books are on Audible, so feel free to go to Audible and look up my name. You'll find it there. All right, so let's dig into this. So here, just to sort of finish the conversation, let's look at, we're talking about this whole thing. Coach Prime goes to UCLA. He gets robbed. He talks about it in the press conference. I got the sense that his approach to discussing it was much more polite and respectful than it would have been than it was at Jackson State. Like I think that his approach with Jackson State was somewhat demeaning and degrading. I would say this to his face. I love the guy. I told you he's my favorite player, but I would still say it to him directly. I think that that sometimes you have to be cautious about cheering on an arrogant persona. You have to be cautious about cheering on kind of this persona that is, I'm the man, I am that dude. because sometimes if you're not careful, it can be disrespectful to the people around you. Like, I think that the way he might discuss the issues with the offensive line, I think that requires a little more empathy than what he's delivering right now. I think he's going to pay for that. I think that if he's not careful, he could find out that his linemen give up on him. That puts his son in danger. And so out of respect for his own child, I would encourage him to be more respectful in his language. Here's another point that the media isn't going to talk about that much, but I'm going to make this point right now because it has everything to do with economics. I am all for college athletes getting paid. I am all for college athletes being paid. If you go back and you read articles I wrote in 1995 and 96, I was writing in the 90s before some of y'all were even born. I just look young and beautiful. I ain't as young as I look. But I was writing articles in the 90s saying college athletes should be paid. In fact, the articles were so impactful that I've spoken about this issue on CNN. I've spoken about it on CBS Sports when I was on the faculty of Syracuse. The basketball players at the University of Kentucky were told by their coaches to not read my articles. That's how impactful they were because I could break it down for you. One thing I'm good at, just like Coach Prime is great at breaking down an offense and figuring out how to get that interception or how to run a punt back for a touchdown. I'm very, very good at logically and analytically breaking down racism, white supremacy, and economic exploitation in such a way that it's hard to really argue at that point. And with the NCAA, it was easy pickings. It was very easy when I was a doctoral student to go in and analyze the finances, analyze the educational aspect, and analyze the racial aspect of the mass wealth drain and exploitation taking place by the NCAA against the Black community. This was not just an economic crime against athletes. It was specifically an economic crime against the Black community, similar to the way they extracted Coach Prime out of your community. They extract your best athletes and they didn't want to pay them anything. They would treat them like runaway slaves. I've written about this extensively, and when athletes started getting NIL deals, I was the first one to cheer. It was like a change is going to come. Finally, we made it. We've been fighting on this for years. I'm super happy about this because it never made sense to me that the coach would sign a $20 million contract and his star player's mother is living in the projects. That did not make sense. That the coach and his family was flying to the games on a private jet, but the star player's mama had to take a Greyhound bus. I did not understand why the coach was eating lobster and caviar with his little kids and the star player of the team and his family was eating at White Castles. That was unfair. That's not just exploitative from a financial standpoint. It's harmful from an educational standpoint. When I was on the faculty of Syracuse, I argued extensively with a football coach that he was disrupting one of the players, and it was a white kid in my class. I said, you are setting him up to fail. This is highly inappropriate. Stop taking this boy out of class to go play your goddamn football games until you start paying him. That was the conversation we had. So I'm laying this point out to make it 100% clear that I am all in favor of the players getting paid. I love it. Now that we've laid out the first aspect of it, let's go to the other side of this. There is a saying in China that they have. I taught finance in China. I had some great students in China way back in the day. And one of my students told me about this saying that says that the fattest pig always gets slaughtered. The fattest pig always gets slaughtered. So when you show up and you are Shedeur Sanders and you got your NIL deal, and then with that NIL deal, you're going to go buy you a mansion and put it all on the internet. And then you get you a Rolls Royce, you flashing all over Instagram, and you showing your watch after the game. You get on national TV and you start doing this because you're flashing your watch. I'm sorry, but you asking for trouble, dog. You are asking for significant amounts of problems. You are asking for every hater on the planet to come looking for you, and they know that they're going to find at least $100,000, $200,000 worth of jewelry in that damn locker room everywhere you go. You go to the club, there are guys sitting back watching with their gun on their hip, thinking, oh, he think he better than everybody else. He think he the man. Oh, we're gonna show him who the man is. Tekashi 6ix9ine, who was the rapper that snitched, he had this tour called Test My Gangster. And I said, why in the hell would you name your tour Test My Gangster? Why would you do that? Because when you say Test My Gangster, what you're doing is you are doing a shout to every single person that hates you, every person that wants to see you dead, every person that's jealous of you, to show up and say, okay, I'm going to see if I can stand up to the challenge. You are calling every challenger within a 100-mile radius to come and take what you've got. So here's the thing. When you're talking about What's going on with Primetime and Coach Prime? This is an economic conversation. This is not gossip. If you think it's gossip, you should definitely get the hell up out of here because you're not intelligent enough to follow this conversation. When you're talking about Coach Prime and the kids are making all this money, you run around being flashy. Oh, you're going to get robbed. You run around talking all this mess. Oh, you're gonna not just get robbed, but you're gonna get clobbered on that football field. When I saw the pregame speech by the coach at Oregon, and he literally all he did was he leaned into the natural male instinct of competitive jealousy, and he said, "Oh, they think they're better than you. They think they're flashy. They think they're all that. They ain't got no substance. They all flash. He's shining his watch. He think he's the man. Oh, we're gonna go knock his damn block off." That is the easiest way on earth to get a bunch of 21-year-old men motivated to fuck you up. And if you watch that Oregon game, if you saw that Oregon game, you saw Oregon beat them like they stole something. They beat them like you were the guy who murdered my mama. They beat those boys into oblivion with absolutely no mercy. And a lot of that energy came from the fact that they were literally thinking, who in the fuck do you think you are? Who the hell you think you are? You coming up in here acting all cocky. Ain't won nothing. Oh, I got Tom Brady on text message. Why must you brag about that? Tom Brady isn't talking to you because you won Super Bowls. Tom Brady, you haven't earned the right to talk to Tom Brady. Tom Brady won 7 Super Bowls against the greatest athletes on the planet. You can't even beat Colorado State. You barely beat Colorado. Colorado State doesn't even have a winning record. Like, so what makes you think that you even are worthy of even being on a text message with a Tom Brady? The only reason you're on the text message with Tom Brady is because of your daddy. You inherited access to that greatness. That's what you did. That's what you did. It's not, I'm not dissing. He's great. He's a great player, by the way. He's really good. But you inherited that from your daddy. And it's just like what is similar. It reminds me a lot of white privilege or wealthy privilege. See, they have a saying that says, some people were born on third base and swear they hit a triple. Some people are born on third base and swear they hit a triple. And the thing is that Shador was born in the middle of royalty. His father, that's why I think about it, his daddy's jersey's on my wall. I love Coach Prime. I think I watched all the primetime era. I was impressed by him to the highest level. But the thing is that when you are like flashing your watch and talking about I got Tom Brady on the speed dial, you flexing on the gram, you asking for problems. Young boys don't understand that. Young boys who ain't never accomplished nothing ain't gonna get it. They gonna think I'm hating. No, you just hating. You just hating on Coach Prime. Hey, what's what you doing? That's what you're doing. No, any man who's ever accomplished things. Again, I was an okay athlete. I wasn't a Deion Sanders athlete, but when it came to finance, I was the only black man on the entire planet to get a PhD in finance in the year 2002. Black man or black woman. There's not one other black person on the planet that got that PhD that year other than myself. I'm not bragging. It's just a fact. You can go look this up. My dissertation's on the internet. There are no fake PhDs in this podcast anywhere. And so the same way Deion was that dude when it came to football, yeah, you could say I was that dude when it came to finance. I had to sit with the smartest people on the planet. I had a student that sat next to me who got the 8th highest math score in all of China. That's how that was the level of the competition, and I was able to rise and somehow find a way to make it through. And one thing I will tell you that I am observing here is that with people that truly have been through the fire, people who truly earn their way to the top, there is a level of humility that you gain where you learn how to truly respect the amount of work required to get to the highest level. You know, you respect it. You don't think that because you beat Colorado State, somehow that's like winning a Super Bowl. No, you should talk to somebody who really won a Super Bowl. And if y'all remember this. See, a lot of people didn't understand. Weak people aren't going to get this. People who aren't successful are not going to understand this. But I want to talk to everybody that wants to be successful. I'm really trying to drop some game. And if you want it, take it. If you don't want it, that's okay. It's all right. A lot of people may not get this. But if you remember, does anybody remember when Shador was showing off his Bentley? And anybody remember what Tom Brady said to him? What did Tom Brady say? What do y'all remember? Tom Brady said he needs to get his ass, spend less time in that car and get his ass in the film room and get to work. That's success talking. That's success talking to you. Success says you need to be humble, man. You can't, when you're running around here flashy and all of a sudden running your mouth constantly about how great you are, constantly picking battles that you don't have to pick. That is a tremendous sign of immaturity, and it's a tremendous sign of a lack of accomplishment. What unfortunately happened to these poor guys at Colorado is they adopted the Coach Prime persona without actually having earned the right to have a Coach Prime persona. See, I'm gonna give it up to Coach Prime. He's earned the right to walk around like he's the man. He really does. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think sometimes he can show a little more empathy. I think sometimes he needs to be careful with his words. You're dealing with white folks now. They're not going to love it as much as they did before. You better win. When you talk like that, you better win, right? Because when you lose, everyone's waiting for you to lose, right? He gets all that, though. He's been through the fire. He's won the Super Bowls. He's been in the World Series. He's been at the highest levels. And what's fascinating to me is watching a bunch of guys playing at rinky-dinky ass Colorado. Guys who were maybe all city or all state and think that that's the same as winning the Super Bowl, literally adopting a mindset to say, oh, I'm the man, I'm the best, I'm the greatest. I might win the Heisman this year. And the real world is full of a lot of people who were never given that level of privilege, who are going to be upset with you because you had Michael Irvin, a Super Bowl champion, coming to your practice giving you motivational speeches. They're going to be mad at you because they worked 10 times harder than you and won a lot more games and got their team in the top 10, but they don't have Lil Wayne on the sidelines. They don't have all the flash and everything else. So I'm just trying to, this is really me speaking in a way that is going to offend a lot of people. But I'm going to just tell you, that mindset of the flashy Negro is typically not one that benefits you when you're talking about real life competition. It just doesn't typically work. It draws the wrong attention. I know that all the dumbass rappers made you think that this is the way you're supposed to live, but anybody who's ever been in the fire, any veteran, think about this, pay attention like this. Think about it like war. When it comes down to declaring war, the people who do the most talking are typically the people who have the least experience in actually fighting in a war. The people who do all the yapping and all the tough talking, like the Donald Trump types, are people who would never fight in a war because they don't have the courage. They're not willing to make the sacrifice. They don't have all that it takes to truly fight in a battle. But they're the ones who do the most talking. The people who've actually been in battle, they approach it with courage blended with a respectable amount of humility to understand that, hey, I really don't want to fight you. I'm not scared to fight you, but I really don't want to fight you because I know what comes with that. I understand the sacrifice required for me to win a battle against you, so I'm not going to be the first one to jump out with my gun. I go back to even Tupac Shakur. I think the reason Tupac talked so crazy on that song Hit 'Em Up is because Tupac was never really in a lot of serious situations where gang affiliation has significant consequences. I'm not saying that he hadn't been in life or death situations. He had. But I think Tupac, if he'd had a little more wisdom or had somebody like an OG maybe talk to him and say, come on, man, like this song, Ice-T and all those guys were like, come on, man, this is too much. But when you're just talking, well, talk is easy. Talk is cheap. It's easy. We can talk all day. Hit him up. I fucked your wife. I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna kill everybody. Right? Okay. Well, you do understand that is going to draw a certain level of attention, and it may not end well for you. And I say this as a person who saw that era, and I knew Tupac wasn't gonna make it. The minute that song came out, Willie D, a friend of mine from the Ghetto Boys, he was in my wedding. Willie and I are very close. He told me, he said, when I heard Hit 'Em Up, he said, I heard that song and I said, somebody's finna get killed. That's what the first thing Willie said. And the reality is that when I see Shador being flashy and I see them sort of carrying this persona and bringing this circus to every city they go to, I sit back and I say, with that offensive line, somebody's finna get killed because you're not ready to back up the smoke that you're creating with this sort of language. You're flashing your jewelry, all that, and I think being robbed is nothing more than a manifestation of that. And what's really sad as well is if you don't change certain things, it's gonna continue to happen. People who tend to have money that are flashy. This is more for you, not so much for the athletes. This is just a reality about wealth and money. This is what I do. People who tend to be loud and flashy with their money tend to attract a lot of problems. And so ultimately, them getting robbed at UCLA didn't surprise me one bit. I would really consider having a talk with them about the value of humility. There's nothing wrong with being humble. I don't know who decided that there's something bad about being humble. You can be great and be humble at the same time. Like, I'm going to kick your ass on the field. I'm going to show you what I got, but I ain't got to talk because I'm going to do all my talking on the football field, not when I'm sitting on the sidelines with Lil Wayne. But again, that's a cultural thing. Some people aren't going to get that. Some people think that the flashiness and the fast talking works. But I can tell you that that's one of the problems you have in the black community. You got a lot of flashy, fast talking Negroes that learn from the rappers because all rappers do is talk. They don't go build. They don't create jobs. They don't develop industry. They can't do half of what the white man does, but they'll sit on the cover of Forbes talking about how they got more money than you and how nice their car is and how pretty their girl is and how many guns they got and how much liquor they drank and how much weed they smoked and how much dope they sold and all this other stuff. Ain't did a goddamn thing for your community. You came from the hood. You came from the projects, the dirtiest, funkiest projects on the planet, and you put the projects in your video every single damn time, and I cannot go back to that community and find a single person that has a job or a better life because you came from that community. That to me is not any form of masculinity, to be honest with you, because a big part of masculinity is accountability. A big part of masculinity is being able to hold it down for the people that you care about. A big part of masculinity is to be able to change the circumstances of the people that you ride for, that you protect, that you defend, that you support. And so when you're not taking accountability for anything, then you're not really a man. You've never even gone through the rite of passage, but you have a lot of what I call bearded babies in our society, which are men that do a lot of talking. You see them a lot on the internet. You see them doing a lot of yip yapping on the internet. But if you look at the actual follow through, if you look at what they're actually doing, what they've actually created, what they've done for their own families, or do they even have a family? Are they taking care of their kids? Are they building? Are they developing anything? A lot of guys aren't doing anything. Now, I'm not saying everybody's like this. I'm saying that if you're not in that category, then hold yourself accountable. I shouldn't be the one doing that. I shouldn't be the one telling you these things. You have to tell yourself these things. And also, I think as far as Colorado, to circle back on Colorado, I don't think that I think that sometimes their talking is a little bit above their pay grade. I really do. I don't think that they're as good of a team as they're flexing to be. And I think that they are under a really, really difficult weight because every city they come to, they bring this circus and all this fast talking and everything else. And that just leads to them getting their asses smashed by real football players. And if you don't believe me, go look at what's happening on the field. Don't take my word for it. Go look at what's happening on the field right now. And I'm really curious to see how those folks in Colorado are going to love the Coach Prime persona when if that record ends at 4-6 or 5-7 or whatever. I really be curious to know if they're still going to love you when you're losing as much as they did when you were winning. I don't know. I wish them the best, though. I really wish them the best. Anyway, that's my 2 cents. That's my conversation for today. Thank you so much for listening. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins. My new book is called The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. You can go take a look at it on Amazon or drboycebooks.com. Also, if you'd like free stuff from the Black Business School, just text the word stock to 31996. I will send you free information on how you can get your money up, how you can put yourself in a better financial situation. I will share everything I know. Just text the word stock to 31996. All right, guys, I'm out of here. Have a wonderful day. I'm going to go to the gym with my wife. You guys have a wonderful day, and I'll see you soon. Peace.
Here we are, clan the isms, cataclysm great. Our people out here struggling, trying to make it in this state. Everybody out here doing it, but we the ones who late. Now family, we the ones who gotta delegate. Get that money in the power, never be fake. Stick to cosign for 3. What did he say? Create jobs, support our own. Educate the same and buy back your home. Got 3 degrees, triple 10. 3 PhDs, now we on the CNN. DBTV, let's talk about negligence. Ignorance is bliss, but we can turn it to intelligence. Believe none of what you hear, half of what you see. Let's break it down here on Dr. Boyce TV. Here we are.